We can welcome everyone live and everyone joining us in the recording for our first webinar to cover Sagenverse 2.0. And we're going to show you how to build a Sagan using our new template system. And just give you a quick brief overview of what we'll be covering in today's presentation. We'll start with some introductions. You'll get to meet the team. There's actually a fair amount of our development staff here on the call with us who will be available to answer questions in our sidebar, or who, if they feel so inclined, can ask questions of Joe and I while we demo out the software to remind us of things that might be cool in context of what we'll be showing today. After that, I'll be walking you through an overview of the new interface in 2.0, showing some of the things that you may find familiar from your time in 1.0, and some exciting new things that we're offering in 2. From that, we'll actually get into a live project creation where we'll build a art gallery with the work of Claude Monet, and we'll be putting together a paintings gallery complete with a virtual tour and some customization to that template that Joe will be walking you through, Joe, our creative director. And from that point forward, we'll show you how to publish and share your creation to friends and family and how to post it online. And then if we'll have some time, I'll hand it back to Joe, who can show you some of the going above and beyond the basics that we'll cover in this webinar, giving a preview of what some future webinars or future workshops we might host will look like. So without further delay, I'll walk right into introductions, and then we can get started with the demo. So I'll start us off. My name is Ben Mazza, and I'm the VP of Product and Engineering here at Sagenverse. I've been with the company pretty much since the inception and have been exploring all the different ways that 3D content creation can assist in storytelling, assist in other forms of expression. And it's been a real pleasure to put this product together with the help of this development team throughout the last few years, and really excited to share what we've done. And I'll pass it over to Joe for himself to introduce himself.
So, hi, I'm Joe Grabowski. I'm the creative director at Sagenverse, and I've been with the company since 2020. So, all of kind of 1.0 development and release, and then now into 2.0 development.
Okay. Great. Also on the call, we have several members from our staff. I'll just quickly introduce them if they want to do a little emote wave or hello. We have Ken Nelson, who is our director of server storage, our backend lead. We have Johannes, who I cannot pronounce your last name correctly. Forgive me. It's Gilik?
Gilichuk, but that's okay.
Yes,
don't worry.
It's very difficult for English.
Difficult. Even where I was born, people had issues with that.
Johannes is our technical director, our engineering lead. Also on the call, we have Ramin Shaheen. I hope I said that correctly. Brendan Cottenham is also with us. He is a member of our development team and leading our 3D Unity team. Guests on this call, we have Nick and Louise, who are actually both part of our team as well. Nick runs our QA department, and Louise is an exhibit designer. So, hey, welcome, John. Good to see you. We're just getting into the demos now, so we'll get going here. As we'll continue, other people might roll in. Just for you, if you would like to ask a question, John, there's a QA section that you can type your questions there. And if you want to participate with voice, we can unmute your mic and you can ask questions live with us. And you should be able to use the emotes and reactions at the top of your menu. So without further delay, I am going to open up my screen share and we'll get into the new Sagenverse. So I have created a new account in Sagenverse 2, but just so I can walk us back to where you can start with this, we can go to sagenverse.com. We have a new website set up where you can learn more about use cases, read our blog, talk to our team here with the chat widget, and learn more about what we do here at Sagenverse. But really, we're hoping you would just want to jump in and create your free account. So we can do that by clicking the Get Started button. But because I have already registered with my account, I am now into the main interface dashboard here. But our sign up page is pretty self-explanatory. Just need a email address, and your free account comes with quite a few different features that we're going to cover today in our workshop. So here is the main interface. As you start the application, you'll notice there's not a whole lot on your dashboard because, quite frankly, you haven't made anything yet. So I'll give you a quick tour of the geography of this page and talk through some of the different areas. It's organized. Here is a list of where all of your Sagan projects will show up. So you'll be able to create a new Sagan project by pressing this button here. And as you progress in your Sagan creation, you'll see several different swatches representing your projects. And we'll see what that looks like in just a minute once I create the first project. On the side here is a link to your storage. So as you make new projects, those projects will show up here representing the collections of files and all the things that will make up the contents of your Sagan. And again, this will make more sense as I loop back through this dashboard after we create our first Sagan project. And then other things that you might expect to see is the ability to change your profile picture, log out of the system, update your password, etc. You know, so basic account management things there. So back to the main Sagan list. To start a new project, I'm going to go ahead and create a new Sagan by pressing the button here, or you can use the create button here on the top right-hand side. And you'll be presented here with a series of template selections and use cases that you can browse. For today's webinar, we're going to build an art gallery, but we do have several different types of starter projects, as well as completely empty spaces that you can completely customize to suit your needs. So I'm going to open up our art galleries. And you can take a preview of an art gallery or any template by clicking on the thumbnail, and I'll play a little brief video kind of showing you the aesthetics of the room and give you a little virtual tour before you commit to selecting it. So it's a good way to take a look at what's available in that particular template space and how it's organized. And once you find one that you like, you can go ahead and select the layout and give it a name. So since we'll be working with Claude Monet today, I'm going to go ahead and just call this the Monet Gallery. And then you can give it a description if you like. I'm just going to say works from Claude Monet. And then we're going to load into the gallery space. And beautiful thing about templates is it's already designed. We have a space that has frames and fixtures and colors, and it's all essentially decorated. All it's missing is our files and our media. So we can take a quick moment to get acquainted with our new editor interface. So those of you who have used Sagenverse 1 would expect to be seeing all the controls on the top left and right hand sides of the menu. We've done it in 2.0 just to move it all to the left hand side with a series of tabs and palettes that you'll find very familiar if you had used Sagenverse 1.0. So starting at the top, clicking the exit button will return us to the dashboard view. You can just do that really quick. And you can see because I just established this new project and gave it a name, it is now the first entry in my list that I can go back to and switch back to working in the 3D space. We'll go into detail into all of these tabs in just a moment, but all the favorites that you would have recognized from 1.0 will be here, and we'll get into how this works in our workflow for 2. Our Files tab, which is where we'll be bringing in our media and organizing our media. We'll be going over our 3D asset library. We'll briefly go over our note system. We'll talking about sharing and publishing. And then we'll get a bit into tours. Then we'll get a bit into setting up the room properties, the room colors. And then these controls at the bottom here are more for editor use to help us as we build. And Joe will be covering that when we get to his section in just a moment. So just as a quick review, here's how you can get around your Sagan space. You can see my cursor here is moving around the room, and you see a little navigation circle. Hopefully we all see that. And anywhere I click on the floor, it will automatically walk my camera to that position in space. To turn my head, I'm using left click and drag to, as I push my mouse to the left, I'll be looking to the left. As I push my mouse to the right, I'll be looking to the right. If I push my mouse up, I'll be looking towards the ceiling. And if I drag my mouse down, I'll be looking towards the floor. This is all fairly intuitive as you get used to it. If you're using a touch screen, the same controls work on a touch screen. As you drag up, you'll look up, drag down, down, so on and so forth. If you're somebody who prefers kind of the classic video game control mechanisms, we've got all that covered with the classic W to move forward, S to move back, A and D to sidestep, and to turn your head, we can use the Q and the E keys. All of this is of course covered in great detail in our documentation. We'll make sure you've got links to that before we end the session today. So that kind of covers the basics of our interface, how to get around. Now let's talk about building our first gallery project. So if you want to follow along, I have included into the chat a couple of zip files. You may see them. Let me know if you guys do see them. One is called monetproject.zip, and the other one is called Monet 3D or Monet 3D models.zip. If you would like to follow along and build with us, or maybe watch this recording later, you can grab these files and follow along with what I'm about to do. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the files myself. And then I will bring in those files to start adding them to this project. So to add files to a Sagan, we've got a lot of different ways you can do this. We'll start with kind of the traditional file upload interface. So I'm going to click on the Files tab, and we'll have a couple different options to choose from. But default, we're open to a view that is, think of it as a root level folder for this Sagan project. So anything I would click to upload here is going to go into the root level of my project. So if I was to go to my File tab here, and I'll go ahead and just unzip these. So I'm going to grab these paintings. I've got about 10 here. So I'm going to select all those files, press open, and it's going to stage all my files into this upload widget so I can preview all the files about to be added to my project just to make sure I want all of these. If I don't want any of them, I can press this little X to remove it from the list. And I can also click the add more to add more files to this particular upload. So I'm going to go ahead and press upload, and each one of these is going to upload to my project. Once it is complete, I'll press done, and then all of those files are now in my file list. If you would like, we're starting to incorporate subdirectories. So if you plan to be working with a lot of files, you can use a folder here, and you can create a folder, and I'll call this audio. And then I'm going to create one more folder for video, since I'm going to be bringing in some of that material next. To open a folder, you can just click the view folder, and now I'm inside of the audio folder, and I'll go ahead and go to my audio clips, upload those. So now I've got all my audio clips there. Go back to my root just by clicking the Files tab here. It takes me back to the root. I'll open this and I'll bring in my video file. Okay. So now I've got all these files ready to go, and why don't we start adding some of these to our room? Just like Sagenverse 1, or if you're new to Sagenverse, it's as simple as grabbing a file that you would like off of this palette and dragging it into the room or into a frame. So if I drag it on the wall, it's almost like I'm putting a poster on the wall. But if I put it inside of one of these frames, you'll see that the frame is going to capture the image and spread it out to fill the whole frame. And I can do this for any one of these items that you can see this icon for in a template. So I might grab this one over here, add that one, and start decorating my Monet space to my heart's content here. So let's take a minute here and drag a few of these different paintings in. And then we'll get to the next step, which would be to fit them in the frames the way I would like. So we've got a couple of paintings in the frames, and you'll notice that this particular painting here, we've got some extra space that we may not wish to have. We want to crop this painting so that it fills the entire frame. So Sagenverse will try to fit your images into the frames as best it can, but we do have a way for you to modify and work on each one of these 3D objects. And to select a 3D object, I just simply clicked upon it, and this new menu has appeared showing me all the different things I can do with this frame. So I've got some basic controls here. So if I want to be able to, say, put a little rotation or fix the frame, so I want to create a slight Dutch tilt to something, I could. If I want to change the scale of this object, I can use the scale slider here. If you're somebody who prefers to work with precise numbers, you can type into any one of these fields or use these arrow controls here to set fine tune on that. We also have a whole bunch of other forms of manipulation and modification for transform. I'll wait to let Joe kind of dive into that system a little bit more in just a minute. But since I'm focused on this file, we have a tab for files, where if I click on the file, I can open up this file editor. And this file picker here is showing me the current image inside of the container. A little bit overflow here, we'll fix that in a little bit. But we can use the zoom feature here to set a cropping, so we can make that image fit the entire frame. And now you might have noticed that we're cutting this fan off at the top here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the vertical offset to frame the figure a little bit more in the frame. And there is quite a bit more controls here, as you can see. Joe will go into further details on that, but that is the basics of getting a file into a frame, into the room. Now, real quick, I want to show you one last thing before I pass it over to Joe to show you a little bit about customization. And that is one of the things that you can add to a Sagan that's quite useful is a web page. So I've got the Wikipedia article on Claude Monet here reserved, and I'm going to go ahead and select all of this address bar at the top. And I'm going to add that to my clipboard by pressing Control-C, or on Mac, Command-C, and then jumping back into Sagenverse, where I have it on my clipboard, and I'm going to find a spot to put it in my room. So I've got this nice collection of frames here that maybe I would like to add all of my Monet information or my references to these frames. So I'm going to put my mouse cursor over the frame I would like to paste this URL into. And I'm going to press Control V, and you'll see that it's dropped in a temporary image while it loads and creates a thumbnail for that website. And then as I've pasted it in, it will go into my files collection here. We can see that it is already processed on the file side, and we should see the updated thumbnail arrive after the screen refreshes. And sure enough, there is our Monet link. So I'm going to pause for a minute and see if there's any questions from our guests. Joe?
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Make sure everyone can see it. Yeah. Cool. So I went ahead and started a new project in the same template that Ben opened up. I grabbed the same images that Ben zipped up. I've placed them how he showed. I've placed them in a different place than he did. So I'm building my own gallery. But I like this template. I like starting from a template. There's less kind of, I don't know what to do. The room has, some furniture pieces laid out. It's got a color theme. It's pretty established. I can drag and drop my files and feel pretty accomplished. But when I want to make this feel more how I want, personalize it a bit. So we still have the furniture tab over here. It's labeled furniture. You click it. We have an endlessly scrolling list of our database of furniture to pick from. We also have a search function, and we also have drop downs for categories. So if I want to kind of add a little more flair to this, why don't we get some plants? Why don't we add some foliage into here? We can select, click, left click, hold it down, and drag it out. Place it where we want it to be placed. Go ahead and close that. So just to select again, we no longer have a long press. It's just a single click, much like manipulating the images and everything. Everything is now single click. You'll see the dot pattern and kind of the overlay on it to know that it's selected, and we can start moving it around. We also don't have any restrictions now of where this can be placed. It will find a surface and go anywhere that we like. So I can quickly get my foliage placed how I would like. While it's selected, this other palette comes up on the upper right. So we have our rotate. Let me select this one so it'll be centered. So we have our rotate, which is nice. We have our scale, so we can make it bigger or smaller. And then we have a more advanced section here for advanced placement where we can break out movement for more advanced fine tuning. Same thing with rotation and scaling. So if we wanted to, we can stretch things and get a little funky with it. We're going to go ahead and kind of leave it as is for right now. But I wanted to then jump over to the style tab. And this is where our color selection lives for our furniture objects. Some don't have a color selection, some have 2, and eventually we're going to be able to support up to 4. So going ahead and picking the flower color, making sure the option that I want to colorize is selected, and I can go ahead and kind of make it a little bit more of a muted yellow to fit this existing color palette. And then what I can do if I wanted to make copies of this so everything is the same color, I can either hit this duplicate button, and that would make a copy of it with the same color. So now those are the same, and I could maybe manipulate this one how I wanted. Or I can have it selected, and if I hold down the Alt key and then click and drag, it will automatically duplicate it as well. So now this guy over here is left out because we don't want him to be red. So we'll go ahead and clear him out. And we'll better kind of balance these flowers. Go ahead and scale them down to not block the painting. Well, now I've made my edits, and I don't like that color anymore. I don't think it really matches the aesthetic I'm going for. So we can select one. If we hold shift, we can select another. We can select the third. And now if we go back into the style, you'll see it's just the color that we had picked. And now if I change the color here, so we can go more into a muted paler blue. There, it's adjusting the color on all three of them that I have selected. And then real quick, over here in the properties tab on the left side, we go ahead and click the properties. This is where we can colorize the room. So templates may already have a base room color that's been assigned when they were built and you've picked it, but if that's not a color you find appealing or want to shift it, personalize it to branding colors or to better match the exhibit or room that you're making. Everything's broken out. There's a keyword, tag underneath each selection. So we know if this is the floor, that's the ceiling. We can do painted walls, and let's make this now a softer blue, and we can move this a bit more to yellow. So by selecting the different things, we can even go in and slightly change the color of the lights to better match our selection. So some real quick and fast ways to start with this template and transform it into something that better suits my aesthetic and the space that I'm building, but still having the great head start of picking from a catalog of templates and not staring at an empty room and not knowing where to begin. And then while positioning and moving around the space, right, we have our click to move. That's kind of what we had in 1.0. You may notice in this default view, if you use the scroll wheel and you're coming from 1.0, right in this view, the scroll wheel won't adjust your height. We have these camera options down here. So if you just click free cam, you'll see it gets highlighted. Now, if I use the scroll wheel, I will go up and down. You also have the WASD controls and the click and drag, as Ben talked about earlier, to move around the space, but you can also now kind of move up and down in a free floating camera. And this is also a perspective you can use in adjusting and adding tour stops that Ben will get to in a little bit. So if you wanted to adjust the camera or get the camera in a specific location to help in building, in manipulating some furniture pieces or an image or a file, the free cam can kind of give you a bit more mobility in getting to the places that you want to get to. And then clicking free cam again will return you to the grounded walking camera. The other option that we have is the overhead cam. So if you click that, it will hide the ceiling, move the camera up into space. This view is very helpful in manipulating and building out a space. So you can use the scroll wheel to zoom in, zoom out. Click and drag will spin the camera kind of orbited around, and right click will move and center the piece. This view is very helpful for blocking in spaces, kind of getting a general overview of the layout, but you still are able to, do group select as we did, and still make our edits. So all of the same editing functionality is here. We still have all of our advanced controls, scale and movement. So very helpful in just kind of building out your space and getting a kind of better lay of the land. And then again, clicking overhead cam will return you to your previous location and get you back into the grounded walking around locomotion. And I think that's it for this section. So I can go ahead and send it back to Ben, and he can take on, go back to his space and building out a quick tour.
Thanks, Joe. I'm going to take over the screen share. and we're back to the layout I was working on. And while Joe was working, I made a couple of small edits, but nothing major. I just needed to fix the one painting that was getting cropped, and I rotated the frame on the wall here using our quick rotate feature. One thing I wanted to add to Joe's update on customization is as you're working, you may find that you make a mistake. In 1.0, for those of you that used it, you might have realized that that mistake was actually an intended consequence that you had to keep because we didn't have an undo feature. But I'm happy to say that in 2.0, if you do make a mistake, you have a full undo capability. So if you make a mistake like move a carpet onto a riser and accidentally mess up your space, you can use the Shift and Z button to bring it back to where it was before. You can also use Shift Y to step forward or backwards in the undo history. So very handy feature that I don't want to forget about in this webinar. So wanted to at least mention that before we get into building out a tour. So thank you, Joe, for the customization. That's really only just scratching the surface of all the different features that we have for building out. But since we want to stick to customizing our templates, we'll move on to what the next phase might be. So once you have a room put together, the best thing to do is figure out how do you want to walk someone through it. You could have them kind of explore it on their own, in which case when you publish and share your room, they'll be brought into the room and they're kind of left to their own devices to figure out where to go, what to look at, and what to do. Personally, I like to add a bit of structure to the exhibits and galleries I put together. So I do like to use guided tours to walk somebody through the collection of files and material I have in the space. So to do that, I'm going to open up our tours manager. Now, your room can have any number of tours, which is super helpful for building things like an overview tour, where maybe you're showing the different major components of your gallery space, but not really getting into the details just yet. But you can also do smaller tours to really focus in on a couple of small key pieces of your collection. And you'll be able to get creative with how you want to tell your stories. And let me show you how easy it is to set up a tour and start thinking about how to move a camera and put some narration and some information together to contextualize the work that you have in the space. So with the tour menu up, I'm going to go ahead and ask to create a new tour, and I'll just call this a Monet overview. Oops, I keep wanting to call it money. So easily done. Description's optional, so I'll just say a tour. And once I hit create, I'm now in the tour creation mode. And the menus at the bottom here will let me click a button to create a new tour stop or save my tour and come back later, or finish my tour. And while I'm flying around with this camera, I can walk or use the free cam as Joe demonstrated. I will find my first point of view that I would like to use to open up my my tour. So I'm going to kind of do more of maybe a broad look at my room here, and I'm going to hit add tour stop, and it's going to record a new tour stop in my list. And I can do one of two things from this point. I can go lay the camera out for my next stop, like so. I can also click the thumbnail to go back to the last tour stop I was looking at and decide whether or not I like that tour stop perspective, or if I want to go into the tour details. So clicking that pencil will let me go into each tour stop and provide a description and title for the tour stop that I will show what that looks like for your guests when they visit your tours. You don't have to show a title and a description if you don't want to, but by default we have it enabled so that you can at least put some kind of structure to what the tour stop is and what they should be focused on. So in this case, we can call this first stop welcome, And then if you want to put in a description of your tour stop, you can. Welcome to the tour. And you get up to 1,000 characters to describe the tour discussion. As I drill down further into the form, if I don't like the camera angle, I can click this edit camera point of view, and it will bring the camera view up for me. And I can fine tune my camera without all the distractions of the interface in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and update to that view because I like that view. And I also want to use some of that audio I uploaded previously. So I had planned this presentation to include some audio descriptions for this tour. And I'm going to go ahead and leverage those now by clicking on the tour audio stop button to select a tour audio clip. And this is going to open up our project directory for the Sagan, including the folders that I had previously made preparing for this. So within this folder, I've got all of my tour stops. And if I roll over, I should be able to see the full file names. So I've got one here that's called intro. I'm going to go ahead and incorporate that intro clip to this tour stop. And then optionally, if I would like the tour to play on its own, I can toggle this switch here that upon the end of that audio clip, it will automatically move the viewer to the next stop in my tour. So this is handy if you're wanting to set up a set it and forget it kind of almost a full autonomous playback. You can do this. But you may, in some cases, want to turn that feature off so that if you want people to be able to actually explore and open up any images or artifacts you have in the space, that you would turn that off. Lots of choices. And as you get used to building in Sagenverse, you'll start to decide what patterns and what choices make the most sense for your projects. I'll go ahead and update the stop. And now it should update with my new information. And then I'm going to go ahead and do one more stop here. And I'm going to turn this description off so I can show you the difference between a stop with a description and title and one without. But I do have an audio clip for this. This is Train in the Snow. And then I'm going to show you what the transition audio will do. So I've got a transition audio clip. That auto advance. And then I'm going to go to my third stop, which will be this painting. And I'm going to give you a quick tip. We have a focus feature. So if you want to have something perfectly focused in camera view, if you select it with the left click and you press the F key, it will automatically frame what you have selected and put it perfectly in the middle of your view. So as a quick little shortcut to get the perfect view of a painting or something in a frame, I would highly encourage you to use that F key to frame it up and set that up as your next tour stop. So I'll turn that off. We'll add one more audio clip. This is In the Woods. Go ahead and have that auto advance, update the stop. And then now I've got a couple of stops for us to kind of demonstrate what the tour experience would look like. I'm going to go ahead and finish editing the tour. And now I've got a record of my tour available here in my tours menu. And I think I might have to reshare real quick because I think by default the audio is not enabled. So give me 1 sec to include sound so you can get the full experience. We'll come back to my tour. And I'm going to go ahead and use this view button to preview the tour.
Welcome to this short tour through the private world of Claude Monet. Today we'll explore 4 lesser-known yet deeply revealing works that offer a more personal view of the artist. not just as a painter of light, but as a husband, observer, and storyteller. Let's begin where modern life meets nature. Train in the Snow, 1875 oil on canvas.
So I'll go ahead and pause it right here. As you can see, the audio clip I had selected for the first stop played in its entirety. It gave the guest the ability to pause and resume the audio track here in familiar playback mode. We have controls here that will allow your guests to go forward and backwards.
Welcome to the short tour through the...
Get me. That will automatically play because I have it set to autoplay. But you can see here in the top left that the stop that I first had a title and description for shows this piece of UI in the top left-hand corner for your guests to understand or convey whatever information you would like to about the stop. And I'm actually viewing this project now as if I was a guest. So this is giving you an idea on how your project will play back to your guests when they follow your link and launch your tour. If you need to jump to a stop, we have a menu here that will give you a full list of the stops, and clicking on any one of these thumbnails will directly take you to that stop in the tour. So I'll go ahead and show you the stop with the transition audio so I can show you the difference of that. So the end of this stop has a...
Train in the Snow, 1875.
Turn it down a little bit.
In this striking winter scene, a steam train pushes through the snow near the Argenteuil station. Trees line the track like silent sentinels, their forms softened by snow. Monet captures the quiet tension between industrial progress and natural beauty, a recurring theme in his early work. The glow of lamplight and steam adds warmth to an otherwise frozen landscape, showing his gift for atmospheric nuance. From the edge of town, we move into the woods, closer to the quiet spaces where Monet found creative refuge.
So what you saw was that transition audio clip bridging the gap between two different stops, and the time it took the camera to go from that stop to the next stop is perfectly timed with the length of that audio clip. So this is a great way to not break immersion if you want to set up a series of stops and audio clips to walk somebody through almost an uninterrupted walkthrough of your entire exhibit. So pretty handy stuff for telling stories that keep your audiences engaged and continuously hearing stimulus while they go through the space. When I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and press the exit tour button here. And now I've got this tour pretty much ready to go. I would, of course, add several more stops to cover all the different paintings I wanted to review. And then, be able to try a couple different versions of the tours till I was ready to go ahead and publish. So before I move into publishing, was there any questions from our guests on tours? We've gone in and by this point, we've got our gallery, our tours, and we're feeling pretty good about preparing this for presentation and sharing. We've got a very similar sharing mechanism to what we had in 1.0. It's actually quite straightforward. Your Sagans are by default unpublished, unavailable, and not guest accessible until you enable a public link. So I'm going to go ahead and enable a public link. And now what this has done is this has taken this version of the room and saved it off just as it is. So now I've got a version of the room saved and linked to this URL. So when I go ahead and save this URL or copy it to my clipboard and say put it into our chat window here, you should be able to follow along and open that link directly and see where this particular Sagan example is at. So if I click the link, it's going to open me into guest view, and it's going to present to me the name of the gallery, the description I provided, and a list of the tours. Or if I go explore my own, a free exploration mode where your guests can go through and click on your paintings, click on the website for Claude Monet, and just generally explore the space. So that is now available, and as quickly as I was able to post that, you guys can access it. So I'm going to jump back to the project and say one of the more exciting things with 2 is now that that version of the room is published, I'm now free to work on the room some more without disrupting anyone that might be viewing that room anytime, any place. And that was one of the big differences between what we offered in 1.0 and what we're offering here in 2.0 is the ability to publish versions of rooms. So anytime you publish a version, you're free to work on the next advancement. And that is handled by the sharing screen. Now that you see is a little bit different from what you saw before. You'll see a timestamp about your most recent save, and this is what we're calling the most current revision of the room. And this one will continue to update as you work on the room. Every time you publish, it will grab that current version of the room and make that the published version of the room. So you can kind of work between those 2 different states to experiment with different ideas, be able to work on more extensions to your gallery without worrying about someone getting into your Sagan at a weird state. So pretty handy for that to work. Our free accounts are limited right now to just sharing with public URLs, but there is no requirement for your guests to log in to view your Sagans. Our paid accounts and our pro features allow you to take and embed your Sagan into your website. So if you're somebody who wants to set up a portfolio, set up a storefront, or be able to incorporate your Sagan project into your own website, you would need one of our paid plans to do that. I believe that covers the extent I wanted to go with tours and sharing. I want to take a moment and just see if there's any other questions before pass it back to Joe, who's going to kind of open it up into some of the more advanced things that you can do with the Sagan that kind of will give a preview to some future webinars and workshops we'll be hosting. So if there's no other questions from the group, I will go ahead and pass it over. Oh, yes, John. So is there a way to go back to earlier versions? Right now, we do keep every single version of your published Sagans. And since I've got Ken on the call with us, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, we are keeping all of those previously published versions of the rooms. We just don't have the feature set quite opened up to allow restore points just yet. Is that correct?
Yep, that's 100% correct.
Okay, so yes, John, anytime you make a published timestamp, we will keep all the previous published versions of the room available. I think given when you would get into your project, if you wanted to reach out to us to roll back to something that you previously had done, or you need us to restore to an earlier version for you, that is something our team can easily do for you. Okay, so I'm going to pass it back to Joe to take us into a little bit of some more advanced things that are ways that Sagenverse really gets into allowing it to be fully customized. So take it away, Joe.
All right. So while Ben was going through the tour and building out the tour, I have continued building out the space a little bit, customizing it a little bit more, kind of resetting the color theme here, making it a bit different than the template that we started with. So added some more foliage and added a bit more pops of color, and added some bookshelves and just kind of filled it out. And I noticed that there's this spot back here on this right side and this left side that is feeling a little empty. And what I was able to do is I went to one of those 3D Foundry websites, Sketchfab, and I looked to see if anyone had any 3D models of like a painting or something from Monet to add to this space. So not an image, not a video or an external web link, but I wanted something with dimension. And I went ahead and I downloaded it as a GLB. And just like Ben showed you earlier in how do you add the files through the backend coming in and uploading a file, as long as you download the 3D model as a .glb extension, it can be imported and load into Sagenverse. So I went in and downloaded 2 of them. So they show up here. There's a little icon that says it's a 3D file. We can see the name of it ends in a .glb, which is the file format that we need for the 3D models. And just like dragging in an image, we click in and drag, and we'll see Sagenverse process it for a second. And depending on the size of the model, it might take a little bit longer, it might come in a little bit faster. If it's already been loaded, it will come in a little bit faster as well. But we see our model comes in and it starts behaving like any other piece of furniture. So we can still know how it's selected. We still have all of our interaction and file management and advanced placement and transform tools are all here. It behaves exactly like that before. And we can see we've added light here. It's being cast on it. It's looking great. But as a viewer, if I switch to room view just to see what a viewer would experience, and I select it, it will load up a separate view, separate 3D view. And here's now, I can manipulate, I can grab, I can zoom in, and I can experience, so like all of the frame that has been captured in this 3D model that is important to this specific Monet piece is here and explorable. So we are getting into not just allowing a user to import in their images and videos and documents and web links, but also being able to add and curate with their own 3D models, whether that's models they make or have somebody else on their team or an outsourcer make, or they're able to go to a foundry or use 3D scanning software to be able to export out of a package somewhere as a GLB or get a GLB file and import it into Sagenverse, and it will be saved and represented here and now can be incorporated into your spaces. And I think that's all I had. Unless, Ben, did you have any ideas to help me build out this space a little bit better?
I think you could probably show how you can mix some of these primitive platforms together and create more interesting arrangements. So what we've noticed here is a lot of what's on the floor is like a single platform on top of a carpet on top of the floor. But
yeah,
lots of I should say exhibits I visited plays with different platforms in a collection, showing off maybe multiples of different elements of a collection. Like pottery might have a couple different risers as they show all the different pottery on one central arrangement. And now I want to show you how fast you can do some of that with some of these primitive pieces that we've just added to the library.
Yeah, so we can start here. So we can start adding stuff onto the things that are existing. So like your idea, this is a big open space, but this is Monet. He's got, more paintings. So let's make this big platform structure just a little bit more presentational for 2D images. So we can go ahead, we dragged out this primitive, we get some fun advanced controls here. So we can go ahead and shrink this down. We can use some of our hotkeys here to work a little bit faster between things. That's cool. You can go ahead and colorize this, kind of match it there. Great. Then let's go back and get let's frame it out a little bit so we can have little stations for these images to go on. So now we can grab out a cylinder. We can again go into our advanced section. We can kind of collide that through and start, going to free cam so we can position stuff a little bit better. Zoom out here. And let's just do a general scale thing. So now start manipulating this. We'll go ahead and set its color. Now we can put this in the corner. This over here. Just make sure everything's the same height right now. There you go. And then this guy's a little weird. Go ahead and group these. So now if I select one, I select all of them. I can now duplicate all of them as well. I can move over here.
Yeah, it's point to note is that it will snap to the surface your cursor's on. So if your cursor is touching the vertical side of the cube, it will try to push those cylinders into the side of the cube. And if it's on the top of the platform, it will be snapping to the top of the platform. Great. I have got one more thing to share. I know we're a bit over time, but I want to show something a little different. A Sagan that I built last week on the history of animation, showing kind of how far you can take the new system. And then with that, I will open it up to final questions and answers, and then we'll adjourn, and we'll look forward to the next webinar planned for a few weeks from now. So this is a fully designed space. You can see quite a few different artifacts and things put into the space, including some dynamic lights, some, actually I realized that I should be sharing some audio with you. Let me know if you guys can hear the audio when I load it back up. You guys hear that? Great. So I'm going to just go right into overhead mode, and I've got quite a bit more to fill out with my original space, but I do have the first section pretty well designed, and I'm really into all these different things. So I use the overhead mode to drag in some different blocking walls to funnel guests through this first corridor and leading them into the first free exploration space, where they can learn about zoetropes, the phanetoscope, and what became known as the magic lantern. Some pretty cool stuff to learn about. I'll actually go ahead and share the link for you to check it out on your own. Put it in chat. And yeah, let me show you a couple things that I was able to put together, and then if there's any questions about that, I can ask or answer them. But there is quite a bit of interactivity you can add. So you'll notice that as I changed to a different area of the space, you're hearing a different background track playing that fits the theme of kind of this Victorian era of enlightenment as they start to figure out persistence of vision and these different effects. So all these are artifacts I was able to add, and if I go into this room view down here, I can turn on a preview of what my guests would experience. So with that enabled, clicking on these things will open up each one of these artifacts, and this is an animated GIF showing the effect of that spinning wheel, which I think is very, very neat. This is a 3D model that I built and brought in, and I have customized and animating in the space, along with this scan. of the magic lantern, which you can see a pretty nice little scan of that. So you can start to add all these different elements together to make a really robust presentation for your guests, and definitely can lead to some pretty interesting, I'll call it content you can put on the internet for anyone that you'd like to share it with. Okay, so I will go ahead and stop sharing and see if there's any questions from our guests. As we wrap up, I just want to thank you all for tuning in. If you made it all the way through the video, appreciate your attention and your enthusiasm for building in Sagenverse. We plan to do a few more of these every month, where we'll cover a new topic and maybe dive into a new use case. We'll, of course, ask the community what interests you and what should we build. And hopefully we can inspire you to build some pretty cool stuff with the platform. And we look forward to seeing what you make. So from all of us here at Sagenverse, I thank you for your time. We'll hopefully see you next time. Well, take care.